The inside stuff. Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes in the Gordys Sportsworld studio.
Coach Gordy would be pleased
Here's my server at the hometown.
or organization increase from the
Okay, so that's
has been done with hometown diners.
We'll go from there, the high school, any other college, you watch any college games?
Just random highlights.
Did you give me something? Who'd you
So,
watch? What highlights did you watch?
I saw some Tennessee, South Carolina,
That's fine. That's
UConn.
what I see. I'll ask
They're the
you.
two big guys.
I'll just watch you what girls, women's games you watch later. Okay? It's that simple. Because I got this all ready to go for my.
The only thing we have to fear is 70 Stag Company.
Of all the big pieces on here this month, here's the one that will have the biggest economic impact.
This is living my life on this live radio.
Greencastle has a store full of sales. Mirage Hardwood, the industry's premium hardwood, is at the
On ESPN 1380, Gordys Sportsworld. Oh, you didn't have it on before? Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I did. I paused it.
That's good.
So you can do that.
I know you can. Thank you.
Semi-live.
Thank you for not having it live while I'm talking. I think it'd be easier doing it, like I said, when I switch to the mornings when that happens, and doing Monday through Friday is actually should be easier than doing. I hope that's the plan. Gary should need driving down.
That's what I see when I hear this song.
That's fine. That's fine.
Probably a lot of
Now
people.
they're gonna see you.
Stirs up some memories.
We are back on Gordys Sportsworld ESPN 1380. I hope you enjoyed our time with Chris Fight, head men's basketball coach at the Shippensburg University. Before that, John Miller, as we went racing, our ESPN 1380 senior racing house. Right now, we do have Amy Hunt, and she is an ESPN 1380 multi-sports analyst today. She's covering basketball. Amy, welcome to Gordys Sportsworld.
It's a pleasure to be back, Gordy.
It's always a pleasure. We're not talking softball today. We're going the B-ball variety, and you went to the Cumberland Valley Greencastle game last night on behalf of Gordys Sportsworld ESPN 1380. What'd you see?
Well, going into the gym, I observed both teams warming up, and my instant thought was I felt like Greencastle was flat even for a warm-up. And I haven't even seen them play this year, but just the dynamics of the team and the warm-up didn't present itself as what I was hoping to see or expected. And I actually mentioned that to a friend that went along with me. I said, I don't know what's going on with Greencastle, but I feel like they're flat already before we even started the game. And I was just kind of sizing up both teams, and I always kind of try to evaluate and get in my mind maybe a guesstimate of what the game would be like. I was hoping I wasn't right, but turned out I was.
Let's talk a little bit more about the game itself. Our final score was 70-36, and again, we're talking two vastly different schools here in terms of size. So if Greencastle went in there and they win, that's really nice, and they lost as they did. It's not the worst thing in the world. You gain some valuable experience, you being a former player. What's it like to play in a game like that?
Well, it's always frustrating to lose in that circumstance. I felt like Greencastle never got into their rhythm, and I in terms of specifics, I felt like their defense was very soft. I felt like their defense intensity could have been upped, or I don't know if they had conflict or what was going on. I was trying to read into it, but I didn't feel like Cumberland Valley was that stellar of a team that they should have won by that amount. I mean, it wasn't like they were out making these beautiful moves and shooting three-pointers from deep or anything like that. It was...
What were they doing? Let's talk about it in those terms.
Right. Cumberland Valley was they were doing a lot of driving, getting past the defender. There wasn't help on defense for Greencastle, and then they would, if there was help, they would dish off and they'd have an easy layup. So a lot of Cumberland Valley's points were scored in the paint. If I felt like I don't have a stat sheet, I didn't keep
high
them.
percentage shots.
High percentage shots, and consequently resulted in a lot of points.
Let's talk about Greencastle.
I felt
What
like
did they do? What could they have done?
I felt like Greencastle had exactly opposite. I felt like Cumberland Valley was squishing into the paint and forcing Greencastle to take some long shots. I didn't see a whole lot of penetration on the side of Greencastle, I saw a lot of three-pointers hitting to the left, right, short. And it seems to me, and I don't know the history of Greencastle as much this year, but it seems like they rely a lot on three-pointers. And when you have any team in the college level that relies on three-pointers, if you go cold, then you start to struggle, but you need to make adjustments.
Any level.
Any level.
Which is why it's basically 33% and not the most.
Right.
Although we'll be talking about Golden State here in a little while, it's not the highly recommended shot. And Gary Martin, ESPN 13 senior basketball analyst, and myself do not like the three-point shot. We wish it was never introduced because you will think more before you take that shot if it's only worth 2 points. Why am I going to take it way out here if I can get it closer? And that's, again, we've gone from really, I appreciate you getting it into the paint. It goes back to the old center days. There it is. It's in the Russell. Now we're going to, who was Russell? Well, let's bring it updated. Well, let's say Jabbar. Anyway, so nonetheless, we're talking high percentage shots. And too many teams, it's 33. It is what it is.
Yeah, and the other thing, that you can't see or you might not see in the newspapers and that sort of thing is Janae, their star player, went down, I believe it was the second quarter. I saw her step on a foot and twist it, and that
You've
had
seen
to
that many
hinder.
times. Again, you being a former high school or college player, you've seen that. It does not take much. As soon as you get that foot into an awkward position, it generally does not have a happy Thursday ending.
No. Now, they were sort of flat prior to that, but that certainly didn't help when your star player goes down and everybody kind of knows it and is looking at her. And, they called a timeout soon after to see if she was okay. And they didn't end up taping her, at least on the court. I don't know if they did at halftime, but it certainly has to hurt. And
It does affect the rest of the game, even though it's obviously the idea of the tape. You're immobilizing it, but you're still sore.
yes.
Something has happened to your
Yes.
body, and that part of
She's
the body
probably feeling
says
it today.
to your brain, hey, I'm hurting down here.
Yes, but irregardless, I just didn't see the chemistry that I felt like needed to be had by Greencastle. I felt like they just never felt like
Never
they
got in the
had
flow
it
of the
going.
game?
Yeah, they just never
And
got
that can
it.
happen. Let's talk
That's
about
right.
that perspective. You being in games like that as a former player, never getting the flow going.
It's very frustrating. I was talking to my friend about how when we played Millersville in college, we as a team were so off and just, I don't know if it was from travel or what have you, but we just could not get together what our skill level was. Chemistry is a huge part. You can have mediocre players and have good chemistry, and that bumps your team, your play, your results up, as opposed to having great talent, but then the chemistry's not there. And when I say chemistry, I'm saying somebody drives to the hole, and the other people know where to go in order to get that pass. What I saw was on the contrary. I saw sometimes some of the girls were driving and people would drop back and out, and they'd throw a pass and nobody was there. It was just
Sloppy.
sloppy. Yeah.
Fortunately, they have about a week off until they play again, so they can get it together and back to playing schools more their size. Let's review, just to give people an idea, just how bigger Cumberland Valley is. Let's talk about terms of enrollment.
Yeah, I was looking at stats online while I was waiting for the game to start, and I saw, and it's in this range, I don't know exact stats, somewhere between 1,139 female enrolled in Cumberland Valley versus Greencastle's 389. I thought, well, why is this, such a discrepancy? And, obviously the schools are different sizes, but for both of them to be in that same league playing in a, semifinals, that's tough because you have Cumberland Valley has a bigger pool of kids, to almost 3 to 4 times more kids, female athletes, to pull from to make that squad. And the difference I could see on the court was Cumberland Valley pulled and substituted a lot more girls than Greencastle. Greencastle didn't have the depth that Cumberland Valley did, and that plays a major part in the second half. Especially you have your star players out there, majority of the game they're getting beat up, beat down, run down, tired, and that's got to play. A physical part of the game is not only wearing them down physically but mentally as well.
Your own opinion, does this help or hurt as you enter district playoffs?
It depends on the makeup and
Again, you just talked about an injury situation also.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of this earlier today. Number one, it can give time for any injuries that we don't really know about or see that aren't advertised with braces or that sort of thing. But the other thing is sometimes, even when I was coaching in softball, I would give the kids a day off at the end of the season right before playoffs, and I felt like that was more refreshing and more worthwhile than another day of practice or another game. Cumberland Valley is going to go right into another game. It really depends on the dynamics of your team and the mentality. If they're beat up, tired, run down, they have school all day and then they go play a game. It certainly, I would think as a coach, would help to have that rest and that recovery time. On the contrary, you have too much recovery time and you're away from games too long, you can start to get sloppy, lazy, rusty, even out of shape in just a week.
Even though you're practicing, you're not practicing against another team.
Yeah, that mental focus isn't there. The gearing up and getting ready to go every other day and just getting in that pattern. They're going to have to get themselves geared up next week, but it's not too much of a delay. So I would hope, and I'm hoping that this gives them enough rest that they can recover, fix what was broken last night, and come out on fire here for the playoffs, because this is what really matters, the end of the year.
We're going to look at some other scores. Talking with Amy Hunt this Thursday afternoon live on Gordys Sportsworld in the Gordys Sportsworld studio. And I'd rather be in here unless you're frosty. You could be outside and you will survive another day. We had Lower Dolphin. They beat Camp Hill 57-47.
Yeah, I was looking at Lower Dolphins, some of their numbers to see what was going on with them, and I wasn't thoroughly impressed with the amount of numbers they put up this year in terms of per game, but they're coming out on top a lot, so it could be a defense, and as we know, just from the Super Bowl, defense makes championship teams.
Said by Earl Winfield, ESPN 13 football analyst. He picked the wrong team. Humbly, Coach Gordy did pick, yes, Denver. But you're right.
Yeah, defense is sometimes underrated and
under-recognized.
Yes, absolutely. I was talking about some of the defense that Messiah plays. Obviously, I'm biased towards Messiah, but I see a lot of their games, and their defense is in your face. And I said, Messiah hasn't always had these star players, and this is true for any team. You might not have all these star players, but if you have a solid defensive theory strategy out there, that can make up for a lot of the lack of offense. And I'm just curious to know if that's what Lower Dolphin has.
Now here's a very lopsided score. Just like we talked about Greencastle, you would not have won to bend Hollidaysburg last night. They lose to State College 76-23.
That's a substantial amount of
offense. That's a humbling experience.
Yeah. My guess is they're full court pressing. A lot of times that's where those high numbers come from.
Yeah, but locally, let's go to Mercersburg. James Buchanan, they beat Southern Fulton 50-48.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see that game.
It's a good win for them.
Yeah, that's a nice game to go to, exciting. That's what you like to see at the end of the season
Cedric
as a fan.
Beat Susquehannock 50-41.
Yeah, I haven't heard a whole lot about Susquehanna this year, but in the past I've thought they've been a good and better team.
Let's look at some other upcoming games. But before we do that, why don't we jump? We're going to come back to women's college basketball. You attended, dare I say, a basketball game between Golden State and Philadelphia on the 30th. Let's talk about your overall impressions.
Oh yeah, like I said, I like to evaluate the teams before they even start.